I see you found our little hiding spot in the universe. Don't get too comfortable. This is a place where you will find those with an experience that's out of this world, or possibly deep within your life. I welcome you to the Oracles with James Tyson. Lean forward and listen. We will pull you into a supernatural journey with guests from around the world, each one experiencing some of the most extraordinary phenomena this wee planet has to offer. I wish to invite you to support the program through the Oracles with JamesTyson.com Patreon link. For as little as $3 per month, you qualify for a free monthly psychic reading, a past life regression, and exclusive access to our filmed interviews. Don't lower your guard. That's just the beginning as we give back. When I have reached 2,222 members, we will be giving away monthly trips to supernatural hotspots and conferences across North America. Don't run. I can see you. With a limit of 4,500 Patreon supporters, you will want to get your passports ready, as every third month, we will include paranormal conferences and tours in Europe and Australia. I know you can hear me. Visit the oracleswithjamestyson.com and click on the Patreon link. Where are you listening? That's the Patreon button at the oracleswithjamestyson.com. Now, here are the Oracles with James Tyson.
Thank you, Liam, and thank you, listener, for tuning to this episode of The Oracles with James Tyson. I am James Tyson, and tonight with us we have this wonderful psychic, paranormal investigator, and all-around good guy with her own paranormal radio shows, Miss Christina George. And when I talked to Christina about some of the stuff she's been doing lately down in areas in Nevada, the old gold mine towns, and Virginia City, I think, is one of them she went to, and a few of the ghosts that haunt the area, and the old businesses and a lot of the old towns that she likes to take trips out on the weekend with her paranormal group. And it's a nice little group. Plus, she tags along with anybody who thinks they may have a ghost in a building. She'll come out and help you out. Her group that she started is the PPRS, the Psychic Paranormal Research Society, and that's out of Sacramento, California. Christina is right now living in Napa Valley, California, and it's as haunted as haunted can be out there, she says, too. Which is, I think, most places are haunted. It's just that certain areas you see them a lot more. So we're going to talk to her about ghosts and spirit tourism, which neither of us like. When someone holds a ghost, basically doesn't cross them over and charges people to come and get EVPs or listening to it have a tantrum. So we're going to see what she thinks about that. What else are we going to talk about? Stuff that she sees. It's amazing. I've been with Christina George on paranormal investigations, actually even just sitting in a bar in a haunted small town in Washington State, and she sees them all. Almost have to turn around and cover her head just to have a drink by herself. And it's amazing because when we get her drinking, oh my God, no, I'm kidding. Actually, no, I'm not. She's had experiences after having a couple of too many with a friend, so maybe we'll bring that up, or maybe we get her to bring it up. I think we're going to ask her what happens when we die. I love asking that question, particularly to psychics who have a long history of talking to the dead. And also Christina, because she's had a death experience where hung out on the other side until they told her, no, you got to leave. But I'm going to ask her what her opinion is. Now, she is a host of her own internet radio program called the Paranormal Connections radio show. Paranormal Connections is on Mondays, 6 Pacific or 9 Eastern. If you go to her website, paranormalconnectionsradioshow.com, or go to Paranormal Connections Radio on Facebook, and you get an idea of the things she's covers. But here's a paranormal investigator that's a psychic and who's out there actively on weekends and probably in the week, helping out people with spirits in their place. Plus, she gets to interview a whole bunch of people, authors and other experiencers, and she's been doing this for a couple of years. So it's good to ask somebody like this what their opinion is as it's being developed over the last, in her case, since she was a toddler as a psychic, but with input from other experiencers and authors. We'll find out what her belief is on what happens when we die. And I want to know about ghosts over time because I was told that down in Tombstone, Arizona, actually a friend of mine down there told me that she sees ghosts not just from the 1800s, but she actually sees ghost spirits that have crossed over and they've come back there because they like the town. And when they come back there, it's in the 1800s. So they see it as it was when they remember it and was having a good time. So they actually mix in between, among themselves. So that's interesting. I'm going to see if she has an opinion on that. And then I think I'm going to wrap it up talking about her alien abductions. And Christina was one of those unfortunate people that for a long period of time in her life, she was abducted by aliens, and it's affected her health, whether it is negative or positive effect. You know, she's always had medical issues, but I'm wondering now if they're either constantly causing these ailments that the doctors can't figure out, or as she gets these ailments, they're pulling her back up and repairing them the best they can. I don't know. We'll find that out too. Again, this is Christina George. You should go to her website. It is paranormalconnectionsradioshow.com and read a bit about her. She's been doing this paranormal investigator research thing for a few years now. She does investigations in UFOs, abductees, star children, Bigfoot, chupacabra, and anything in the cryptozoological field. She has an interest in all ends of what we would determine to be say to be the supernatural. Again, I said that she was the founder of the Psychic Paranormal Research Society out of Sacramento, California. She's the host of Paranormal Connections radio show, along with Top Secret News show. That's on Wednesdays, 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern. And it's another little snippet of the paranormal where she also interviews authors and experiencers. Well, she was very young. Spirits were her friends, which is very common amongst very intuitive children, whether like Skeeter Wellhouse, where her friends were Bigfoot and whatever ghosts bounced around, or Sharon Day when she had all these Confederate and Union soldiers living in her house because it was a battlefield hospital during the Civil War. Children will see them and just assume that they're their friends. But with, you know, our lovely Christina here, a lot of things started to go a little bit haywire. She was tormented by spirits, haunted dolls, being attacked by darker spirits, and even started having multiple UFO sightings. Now, I wonder, and there's some talk about this too, do you get more spirit involvement after being abducted by a UFO? Or is it the other way around? You're very open to the other side, and now the UFOs are all interested in what makes you tick. But who knows? With her ability, she goes basically into people's houses to figure out who's there and what they want and how to get rid of them if need be. But more importantly, she can give closure and validation to her clients. And she also educates the client and a lot of people. She travels around doing talks. She talks about basically everything paranormal is not bad or demonic. They're just there. She has been involved with clearing spirits, communicating with them since she was really young. Not all of those experiences are going to be pleasant. You know, she has encounters with black-eyed children. She was tormented by spirits, haunted dolls, dark spirits, and all these crazy UFOs. Man, I'm probably going to have some second thoughts about bringing her on. I think she's just too spooky. Nah, here she is, Christina George. Thanks for dropping by, Christina.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a while since we chatted, and you're up to a lot of stuff right now. I know you've got your Paranormal Connections radio show out, and if anybody wants to check into that, just go to paranormalconnectionsradioshow.com. or you can jump onto it on Facebook at Paranormal Connections Radio. And that show's live every Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. I've been following you on social media, and you've been up to a whole bunch of very cool adventures. What are your last couple? They were a little, like, were they mining towns or something?
Yeah, I was up in Virginia City, Nevada, and it's an old western town, little ghost town. I want to talk about a little small town that everywhere you go is haunted. That's the place to go.
Wow. And I know I've been in a haunted town with you, and it's kind of interesting as you basically saddle up to the bar, grab yourself a drink, spin around in the seat, and there's half a dozen ghosts you're looking at and talking to, that, which is kind of creepy. So those kind of towns have been fun for you.
Yes, and this is actually another little town just like that. It's got like one main street that go on. Except the only difference with this town is that there's like a bar like every other building on both sides of the street. So it's definitely filled with a lot of saloons and a lot of, it's kind of a combination of up there in Concrete, Washington, with a hint of Tombstone together.
Oh, nice.
So they used to actually have the gun duels right out in the middle of the street in town if you had a dispute.
Well, when you think of anything like Virginia City, Nevada, you just think of the Ponderosa and all the gunfights you saw in Bonanza growing up. They're always riding to Virginia City. Got to get the sheriff.
Well, the interesting thing up there as well is, but on the weekends they actually have this group of townspeople that get dressed up in the period dress, and they like do reenactments, and they go take pictures with visitors, and so it's very, very cool. But it also increases the activity because it's like you're taking it back to when they were around every single day.
Oh yeah, what do you call that? Leave an item from the time period out? A trigger object. That's what it is.
And a lot of times, like, we may play music from that time period. If there's like a video clip of things or interview, like, we'll play that. All different things to try to recreate that time period. So, and definitely this old Wild Wild West town, again, it was known for its drinking, its women, and for the gun battles. And so there's a huge old pioneer cemetery up there, and there's 7 different sections. So you had, like most people didn't realize, and I didn't realize until the last time I was up there, that they had all these separate cemeteries. So they're all up on a hillside. So you had the areas where the blacks were buried, where the Jewish were buried, where the Chinese were buried, all these different things. So it's like, it's gigantic. It reminded me of when you did your live stream from Tombstone. And again, they've got some crazy stuff on some of the headstones, but it's just, you just walk forever, and it's huge there. But yeah, definitely the whole town is full of activity, and a lot of the places there, like the Washoe, the Fourth Ward School, Mackey Mansion, the Delta Saloon, a lot of those locations have a well-known history in the paranormal. A lot of the television shows go there. I more so do a lot, like doing locations that have not been over investigated and everybody's been to. So that's why.
Yeah, I know. Like, you're kind of like me. We'll go to places and we just don't. Is there a ghost here? Do you really exist? Because we kind of walk in knowing, yeah, ghosts exist.
Oh,
check that off the list.
Yep.
And we come in and we want to help them. If they want to cross, we want to cross them. If they're being jerks, we want to identify them.
Right.
Like the strange guy that followed, the spirit that followed you into the ladies' room in one town. That
yeah.
I'm watching it. That, like, there's idiots like that, but at least we do something. I'm getting kind of, I don't know, I just get tired of people investigating and then they leave.
Yeah.
And then another group of people come in and leave. It's like, what, are you going to help them?
Well, I mean, what happens with that is So this is one of the reasons, like, I don't take on business clients anymore, because back in the day, they would call me and have me come to validate that there was activity in the location, and then they would want us to get rid of it. They want us to cross it over or whatever needed to be done, because they didn't want the activity. Now it's a big money maker. So now they just want you to come in to validate that there's activity, so then they can go charge $2,000 to a group of people that want to go and investigate. And it drives me crazy. They don't want you to cross over anything, because then if you cross over the spirits, then they can't charge $2,000 on a weekend for somebody to come. And my thing is, and that's why a lot of businesses, now that I'm more well known, uh, don't have me go to investigate. Because if there's a spirit that's there that I encounter that needs to be helped or wants to cross over, I'm 100% going to do it, rather the owners want me to or not, because I'm here to help the spirit world, not to have businesses make money off of the spirits like they're circus animals.
Yeah, and I agree. I totally agree with that. And I believe, you have a spirit that's been in a house for 100 years. Well, if you don't cross it over, it's going to be there for another 100. And those owners are going to come and go. And, most of those spirits don't cross because they've had an issue or a challenge of some sort, or a little bit mixed up in the living side of things. Now that they're on the other side, they would really like some help. Somebody cut them some slack instead of turning them into a tourist attraction.
Exactly. And that's always been, the big thing that bothers me, because a lot of times the spirits don't even know that they're dead. It's where they get in this middle ground, because obviously, being a psychic medium, I can connect with, spirits who have died, and they have crossed over. And so I can communicate, and they come back and forth, whenever they please, to check on the loved ones. The ones that I'm concerned with are the ones that don't cross over. So they died either tragically or suddenly, or they died, but the family is grieving so deeply that they don't want to cross over. Other times, there's just spirits that they refuse. They don't want to go. They're okay. They're happy with wherever they are. For a lot of spirits that are in the space, I find that a lot of time they're living like their last day on repeat. So almost like that movie Groundhog Day. Each day they wake up with the exact same scenario, plays out, to the end, and repeats over and over. And that's exactly the way it is. So just imagine, first of all, you don't know you're dead, or maybe you know you're dead, but you don't know how to cross over. You're out looking for somebody to help you. Every time that you fail and you can't get somebody's attention, or they don't know what you need, then you're going to die that tragic death over and over. Horrible scenario. So why in the world would anybody, if they know this, want to keep a spirit around just to make money off of? Or I get a lot of times people will have a family member, say the family member didn't cross over. So once they find out that it's not some demonic force or something, that it's Grandma June, all of a sudden they'll say, "Oh, well, it's okay. I don't want you to do anything. It's Grandma. I want her to stay here." Again, I have to explain that that's very selfish, because first of all, if you cross that spirit over, they can come freely, come and go all the time and visit. When I'm able to explain that, however they died, and if they are kind of on this repeat, would you want somebody to go through that pain of that death over and over, just so you can have the comfort to know that they're around you?
Yeah, and that's where we, as little meat bag wearing humans that haven't moved our energy, that's the way we perceive, because it's almost greedy.
It is.
Yeah. And honestly, the majority of us don't understand that.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. A lot of times I have to explain it to them. So when they see that, okay, well, I don't want that person to have to go through this tragic, end over and over and over, just because, I feel sad that they aren't physically here with me anymore. When they realize that I can cross them over, and that they can still come and go freely, but they, aren't having to relive those last moments, it gives them comfort, and then they're kind of like, okay, because again, a lot of people do not have the education on, the paranormal field, or what happens when people die, and all these different things. So again, it can be very greedy, not per se that they mean for it to be that way. That's just human emotions, and that's how it affects us.
And I totally agree that the vast majority of people don't understand what happens to our energy once the rest of us fails to operate. When you die, what is it in your experience from talking to dead people, and your experience also as a radio show host in the paranormal, interviewing authors and numbers of people about this, what have you learned, and what is your experience of what happens to we humans after we die?
Well, again, this is a very controversial subject to even touch on, because so many people have different thoughts of where they go. Many people who are very religious believe that, you either go to heaven or you go to hell. If you kill yourself or you're a bad person, you might end up in purgatory. My experience is that, again, some people cross immediately. Now, I have never interviewed, nor have I had an encounter myself or known anybody who has, who states that, they're reporting, or they're having giving me a message, and they say that they're in hell. That has never been. Nor do I have any spirit saying that, I'm in heaven. I do the way that I know that somebody has crossed over is usually they don't have any regrets. They don't have any anger. They don't have any bad will towards anybody, or resentment, or wanting to go and haunt somebody. If you cross over, it does seem to be a very happy and peaceful place that they go. And I will tell you that when I had my near-death experience, I was in an environment of all white light, and I literally felt nothing. I mean, no sadness. I just felt this very huge euphoric feeling of just peace and happiness. So much so that even though I knew what a near-death experience was and what I was encountering, I at the time had young children, and I was, a single mom. So they were all that I knew, all that I cared about, and I would never want to leave my children behind without their mother. It would completely crush them. And when I went through my near-death experience, not once did I think about the sadness it would put on my children if I did not go back. But I literally was telling whoever was telling me that it was time for me to go back that I couldn't stay. It wasn't my time, and I needed to go back and not only be public about my abilities, but I had to, help people and help educate people. That's a very big and different scenario, but I had no thoughts about, oh, my children are going to be so sad. I literally just felt so peaceful and so happy that I wanted to stay. And so and from the spirits that I have spoke to and readings that I've done of family members that have crossed over, that's usually the consensus, is they're very happy. I don't get anything like, oh, I'm here and it's horrible, and I'm being thrown in the pits of fire every day. And I don't get any of those kinds of messages. So could it be that I'm only talking to people that cross over and quote unquote, go to heaven, or wherever you want to call this euphoric place? I don't know.
Christina, when you were down in places like in southern Arizona, or when you were in like Virginia City, and when you'd go to these little mining towns and things, one of the things I want to ask you about is, do you see spirits from the particular time period of the Wild West when it was at its heyday, or do you see them right up into the, later into the 20th century?
I see them all the way up to the current time period.
Nice.
It really varies. I mean, it's not like in these small towns that they only die up to a certain, time period, or only those spirits stick around. I mean, death happens all the time, so I get them of all time periods.
Do they all intermingle, or they all keep to themselves or into their specific time periods?
Depends. Majority of the time you see certain time periods sticking together, but I've also seen situations where there have been multiple time periods, like at a certain location, and they're all together. Not so much commingling, like not talking to each other, but they're all together in the same areas. So.
Yeah, they probably don't have anything else in common with them, or even what you see and compared to what they see, maybe the vibrations are a little bit different. Who knows?
Yeah, definitely.
And do you ever see those that have crossed over come back to those towns?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why would they do that? Is it just something they want to hang out at, or?
A lot of times they might have fond memories of that. Maybe it was, a local hangout where they enjoy being, so they'll go back and visit. Now remember, once they cross over, they just go back to visit. It's just like once a family member crosses over, they can come and go and visit all different family members all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So they can freely come and go. It's only when you have not crossed over that you sometimes are confined to a building or a location, and even sometimes that doesn't even apply, because you have what I call wanderer spirits, where they just wander around and try to find help.
And end up following us home.
Exactly.
Yeah, those ones. I think
exactly.
I agree with you. I think there's almost a connection to the death event, and if they can't get over that death event, like you're saying, like doing the loop,
right.
playing today, they're stuck in one location. But when they accept, okay, I'm dead. Okay, that's what happened. I think then they can go for a walk.
100%. And a lot of times, before we got cut off before, a lot of times a person's religion can play a big part in it as well. So in the Catholic religion, I'm Catholic, religion, you are taught that, one of the top sins that you could commit would be to commit suicide. When person's dealing with, severe depression or maybe schizophrenia or different, psychiatric issues where they just cannot see a light at the end of the tunnel and they're just so consumed. And not only that, but sometimes I've seen people who are in the paranormal who've gotten an attachment, and the attachment has wreaked havoc with their psyche to the point that suicide seems the only way out. And even though it goes against everything that they believe in, it's better than, in their mind, better than living with what they're dealing with. So they'll take their own life, and so they themselves prevent themselves from being able to cross over. And a lot of times when I'll try to help them to cross over and try to explain that they can go into the light, their fear is if they cross over. So right now they're not in hell, but what if they we cross them over, and when they go through that light, we're taught that you either go to heaven or you go directly to hell. So they're like, well, at least I'm not in the fiery pits of hell for killing myself. I may be replaying my last day every day, but I'm, not being burnt alive. So they will, say no, they don't want to cross over, and they will refuse to cross. So there's a lot of things, that play into all of this. So,
because that's kind of what I believe too, is it's getting them to cross over. If they have that religious kind of fear that, well, I coveted my neighbor's wife, therefore I'm going to go to hell.
Right.
They're not going to go. When in reality, it's like, no.
Also, us grieving, we're so concerned about the people we leave behind grieving when we're seeing them suffer so much that we will refuse to go. We want to be able to somehow be there to comfort them and see them through this, but not realizing that they can cross and they can still come back and forth.
Coming back and forth in those smaller towns, though, I heard this from a friend of mine who's a psychic who kind of runs the old morgue in Tombstone. She says, well, she also sees elemental beings, these kind of black caterpillar-y things, walking down the boardwalks and up over top of people and down and bouncing off the walls. But she sees, and this is the first time I heard it, that's why I wanted to ask you, that she actually sees those who haven't crossed and those who have crossed that come back and kind of hang out.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating to me because that's what I've been told about my mother going to a club back in the 1950s with all her friends, and we got that information from the ghost that works the door, who actually hasn't crossed over, but he knew my mom.
Right.
When she goes there, it's like 1951 or 52. When he died in 1945, like 4 or 5 years before the club opened. Right. How did you know my mother? But
then you have to remember, on the other side, there is no time.
Yeah. So my mom's hanging out with me and going to the bar and probably hanging out with a grandkid somewhere and hanging out, I don't know. She's going to be everywhere at once because there's no time.
That's the way I want to do it. I've warned my group that when I die, I do not want them to come and cross me over, because I plan on going and haunting quite a few people, actually, scaring the heck out of them. And I swore that nobody better cross me over. When it's time and I need help, then I'll let them know. I know where to find them.
Yeah. Yeah, don't try, because if I see you trying, you're the first one I'm haunting.
The first one I'm coming after, I've already told them.
Well, we're hopefully talking to the not so late.
Right.
Christina George, you are spooky enough in real life, and I've got you on the radio here. If anybody wants to listen to her show, which is live Monday nights, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern, go to her website. It's paranormalconnectionsradioshow.com. That's paranormalconnectionsradioshow.com. And if you want to follow that show on Facebook, you can follow it at Paranormal Connections Radio on Facebook. Also, Christina George on Facebook, and drop in and say hi. Christina, in those towns you were bouncing around, those old ghosty towns, did you have the opportunity to have a conversation with a ghost?
Well, I had not actually a conversation. I had a very scary, life-changing encounter last year for my birthday in Virginia City, something that has definitely stuck with me. I was planning on going up. A girlfriend of mine invited me to go up to Virginia City for the weekend and do some investigating and have some fun. So I decided to go, and she told me that she had another girlfriend that was going to be joining us. It was her birthday that week as well, so we were going to do a big birthday party for both of us, and that she owned a very old bar in Virginia City as well, and she wanted, I was there that weekend, for me to go over and do a reading of the location, which now that's nothing new, because most of my friends, when we're going somewhere new, they always want me to do a reading of some location. So I said, sure, no problem. The other lady that was coming with us that owned the location, she got there, like 1 a.m, and so we said hi and introduced ourselves, and we all went to bed. And we had to be up the next morning super early so that we could get up to Virginia City. So we get up there, and of course it's my birthday. So as soon as we get there, and it had been like snowing, and like we almost crashed. Like by the time we got there, my nerves were gone. We decided that we all needed to drink, and we, of course, decided to start drinking tequila for my birthday, and that's kind of how it continued through the night. Well, at probably like our 5th bar that we went to or we're drinking at, we're sitting there having some drinks and we're doing karaoke, and my friend Dawn, the owner of the bar, she comes over to me and she says, hey, you want to come with me real quick? And I was like, sure, where are we going? She's like, over to my bar. I wanted to let you see it. And I said, sure. Now, mind you, Sober Christina preaches to everybody, you never investigate when you've been drinking or you're under the influence. All right, you open yourself up to all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
But drunk Christina doesn't follow any rules, and I think that I know everything, and so
you become 14 again.
That's right. She said, let's go. And I said, sure, why not? Sounds like a great idea. So we go walking across the street, and we go in the building, and we go, as soon as we walk through these big metal, heavy, I feel a change in the energy. And she's like, all right, let's go upstairs. So we go up this flight of stairs, and there was a door up at the top of the stairs. And when you walked in, there was a apartment up there. Beautiful apartment. Didn't really get a chance to check it out so much that day. We literally opened the door, we walked in, and she, as quick as she could say, do you pick up on anything? I literally saw a guy standing in the room with across the floor. He's standing there, and I look at him, he looks at me. I realize that he realizes that I can see him, and he realizes I can see him. And just at the time I said, yeah, I see a guy. And she says, well, what does he look like? And the moment that I started to say something, he literally just came running at me full force. And literally the next thing I know, he jumped me, I want to say. He completely took over my body. Now, I have had psychic abilities since I was a young child. So, and I'm 52 now. And in all these years, I have never, ever had a situation where I've been, quote unquote, possessed or jumped or anything like that. Since I can visually see spirits and communicate with them, there is no need that I need to have a spirit enter me in order to give any kind of message. They can just tell me, and I will give the message. So this thing literally jumps inside of me, and he starts talking to this lady. Now, she's looking at me kind of crazy, and I can hear myself talking. I can hear what I'm saying, but it is absolutely not me saying it or my thoughts. And I'm literally saying, it's me, Nick. And he wanted to apologize to her that it wasn't him that was causing him to act the way he was, that he really loved her, and that it was the building, and that he was saying that he couldn't cross over until she forgave him. And literally, she kind of looked at me like crazy, like, how did I know any of this? And whatever I said, it triggered something in her, and her eyes like welled up with tears, and she looked away. And the next thing I know, I'm literally putting my hand out. I literally grabbed her forcefully by the face, and I twisted her head towards me, and I said, no, you're going to look at me. You're going to listen to me. I know you don't believe it's me, but it's me. And if you don't believe me, this will give you no doubt. And I literally felt my arm go back, and there was a table, and I grabbed something off the table, and I went and I literally put it in her hand, and I said, if you have any doubts, you won't have them now. And when she looked down and she looked at the box, she burst into tears. And she's like, I have to get out of here. And she went taking off out of the apartment and down. Now, me, I'm like, oh my gosh, so am I. So I'm following her down the stairwell. And once we get out of the stairwell and we get out of the building, I still could feel the control, but as we walked across the street, that connection broke. And so we go over to the bar, and we both go directly to the bar. We don't say a word to each other. We both order a shot, and we down it, and we got completely trashed the rest of the night. We got back to the apartment. We passed out. We didn't say anything else. And it was a very awkward moment the following morning when we wake up and we have to go out there, because in my mind, I was surprised that she didn't punch me when I grabbed her in the first place, because she didn't know me. She didn't know what was going on. Here I grab her by her face. I'm telling her all this stuff. It's freaking her out. So it could have been much different, but she didn't say anything. And we eventually, the next morning, we sit down to have a talk. And the first thing I do is I'm immensely apologizing to her. And, I'm so sorry, and that wasn't me. And she's like, no, I know who it was. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, it was Nick. And I'm like, who's Nick? And she's like, it's my ex-husband. So, now mind you, I didn't know anything about the building or her or husband or anything. And come to find out, well, first of all, I look at her and I grabbed her so hard by her face that her jaw was literally bruised on her face.
Oh, wow.
So she said, like, you really freaked me out. And she's like, did Jackie tell you anything about me or what had gone on here? And I said, no, I never, she just asked me if I would do a reading, and I never want to know anything about anywhere I read. And so she's starts to tell me that her husband and her had purchased this bar that was no longer a working bar. It was built back in like the 1800s. It was like one of the first and only places where they allowed them to brew beer out of this place. So it's got a long history in this town. Mm-hmm. They decide to buy it, and they're going to renovate it and bring it back to its old glory and reopen it. And there's a basement, there's a middle floor, and then the top floor is where their apartment is. So they bought this place, and as soon as they started renovating it, all kinds of crazy things started happening. And neither one of them believed in the paranormal, so go figure, like all this stuff happening, they're trying to find rational reasons for it. They start digging up the basement, and they said that the basement had a very strange feeling. They were digging up the basement, and first of all, they found some bones that were buried under the basement floor. They also found a bag full of money, and a red dye pack had exploded inside. So it was covered with this red dye.
Right.
But it had been buried in the bag underneath the flooring in the basement. So she went and turned it in, and, it wasn't any good. So they let her keep the money basically as a history thing. Mm-hmm. And more things started happening. So eventually they talked to some of the townspeople. They got somebody to come in that was a paranormal team, and they did some investigating, some EVP work. And some of the EVPs that they got were saying that they had wanted to hurt somebody, and they asked who did they want to hurt, and they said that they were going to kill Keith, which was her husband at the time. And it creeped them out, but it didn't stop anything. They continued to do the renovations. As time went on, her ex-husband started to change. He started he started drinking a lot. He started becoming very aggressive and very mean and nasty. And she stuck around with, but the last straw was he ended up cheating on her. And so she said, I'm done. I want a divorce. She left him, moved back to California, and he continued to work on in their divorce. They decided that they were going to, they owned it 50-50. So he was going to buy out her portion in it, and he was going to run it. So, and then they had split what they were going to take of furnishings, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So it was time for her to go in and do all this stuff, retrieve her belongings, and she can't get a hold of him, and she can't get a hold of him. And so eventually she calls the local sheriff, which is just one guy because it's a very small town. And they asked, it's a good friend, asked her to go do a welfare check on him. And he doesn't answer. So they eventually, break in the doors. They get in there, and they find her husband dead in the entryway where he had been for about 3 weeks.
Hanging?
No, just dead in the
Okay.
floor. And it looked like he had, possibly fallen off of the ladder that he was working on or whatever. So he passed. And so again, so I didn't know any of this. So she asked me what he looked like. I described him to a T, and that's the first. So I'm like freaked out, and I don't want to go back there because again, it's like I've just been possessed, and I had never felt that feeling before, and never wanted to experience it again. But me, I've got to conquer my fears. So I felt like, okay, I broke my number one rule. I needed to go back, make things clear that if he wants to have a message, he needs to relay it to me, blah, 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 and have boundaries and have my protection.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to go back. And this night I'm going back with 3 other people, which was my friend, the owner, Dawn. She refused to go back after that. She was so freaked out that she did not want to go back there, period. She's like, you guys can go investigate. I'm not going back. So we decide to go. It's my friend Jackie and 2 of her friends. So we all go down, and we decide we're going to go down into the basement because everybody says that they've investigated this basement and there's really bad stuff going on, and they want me to go and see what I pick up. So immediately we go in, and again, when we go through the doors, I have this really bad feeling. And as we start to go down the stairs to the basement, it gets worse. So we get to the bar level, and then when we go down to the basement, you can definitely feel the difference. And we get in there, and everybody's setting up the different equipment, and there's like a staircase that goes up to the main street, but there's just a brick wall there now, so it's basically the stairway to nowhere. So I started getting a really bad headache. So I sat down on the staircase, and one of the guy there says, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Man, something's not right. Like, I literally got this headache. I feel like I'm just getting the heck beat out of me. Like somebody's just punching me in the head over and over." And they put the camera on me, and you could visually see these orbs. Now, don't laugh because I'm a biggest person I'm an anti-orb, but I literally, you could see on camera, there were these balls of light that were literally dive bombing and hitting me right in the head on the areas that I'm in the video saying are bothering me. And so we get that, and so they go to do the rest of the stuff. They're setting up the cameras, and all of a sudden I look under the staircase, and I see these 2 little girls and their spirits, and they don't say anything. They just motion with their finger to come here. So I go there, and I sit down in the stairs underneath, and I'm sitting with them, and I'm talking to them, and I'm asking them that, what happened. They're telling me that they died there, that they've never left that location, that their moms gave birth to them, and that the children were killed, the little girls were killed as well as their mothers. And so I say, well, do you need my help? Can I help you cross you over? And they say, no, we can't. And I go, what do you mean you can't? And they said, the bad man won't let us. And I'm like, what bad man? And they both, motion like to be quiet. And they point, and where everybody's setting the cameras up, I can see like floating above, like by the ceiling, is what I would describe as if you had like a piece of like silk or satin like fabric, and you were holding it, and like the wind was blowing, it would kind of just float. And this is what this thing was doing. It was just kind of making waves and floating. And all of a sudden I'm looking at it, and I see it starts to come towards me, and it comes, and then the little girls, they're scared, and it literally like comes, and it goes over the top of me. And the next thing I know, I cannot move. I can't say anything. I can't move my body. Nothing. I can hear everything that's going on, but I just can't say anything or move. It was like being like paralyzed. Yeah. So I'm still sitting under the staircase, and literally, an hour must have went by, and I'm thinking, oh my God, is anybody ever even going to like ask where I'm at or come find me, or like, am I going to be stuck here all night? And I hear the guy that's with us say, does anybody know where Christina's at? And so they're looking around with their flashlights, and then somebody flashes it over like where I'm at sitting, and they said, oh, she's under the staircase sitting down. She's a psychic medium. She's probably trying to get into her trance. So we'll just let her sit there. Right now, in my mind, I'm like screaming, like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like, I don't need to be in a trance. Like, what in the world? This is what I get for investigating with people I don't know, right? Because my team would know this is not normal. So they literally left me standing there for a while, sitting there for a while. So eventually, I'm able to stand up, and I see a lady, and so I walk over, and I'm standing there talking to her. And what's strange is that somebody took a picture of me, and it's like a very creepy looking picture. It's the back of me, like I'm just, my head's down, and I'm just kind of standing there. It's just a really weird picture. But anyway, again, I still can't move. So I stand there for a little while, and then I'm able to get up enough energy where I can move, and I go and I walk over to the staircase, and I sit there. Now, they went ahead and investigated for the hours that we were left there, and never once even came to check on me. They just figured since I'm sitting there, I must be okay. So they decided to go upstairs. I'm done. I don't want to go upstairs. Like, this is the second time I felt like I've been possessed. It's not a good feeling. So I want to go, but I can't leave without them. So I literally sat on the stairs until they finished, and we went out. Come to find out with the history of the location. So I got that these women were prostitutes, and that this bar was also at one point some kind of a brothel, and that the women, if they ended up, getting pregnant, that they would either, kill the woman, before the baby's born, or in some cases, the children would be born, and when they became, too disruptive or older, then the children, the little girls, were killed, as well as the mothers. And so that's why they are trapped there. There is definitely multiple things going on in this place. There is a portal that is open in the basement where I think whatever this thing is, has come through. There's also the spirit of the women and the children that I encountered. There's also Dawn's husband that died there, and they told me that they were the cause of his death. So there's multiple things there, but they are unable to cross over. So we're actually going to be going back the end of the month. I have a film crew that is going with me. They are doing a documentary, and we're going to be filming there. And I am going to, collectively with some other people, try to close down that portal, get rid of whatever this dark entity is, and cross over the women, the children, and her ex-husband, and try to get this all done before the grand opening of the bar happens a few weeks later.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So other than that, it was kind of a boring time. But wow, that is kind of spooky. Yeah, when you get your stuff going, it's not just, oh, I think somebody touched me. It's like, hey, sit down, we're going to play cards with you. We're talking to the lovely and relatively spooky Christina George. Again, she is the host of Paranormal Connections Radio. It's a show that's live every Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern. And you can go to her website, paranormalconnectionsradioshow.com. You can also follow her at Paranormal Connections Radio on Facebook. Christina, you always have these wonderful ghostly adventures, and I love hearing about you bouncing around all over the place. And you all have interest in a number of other things. Have you had any experience lately with ETs and UFOs?
Well, as you know, I get precog dreams, and for those who don't know, when I go to sleep, I am basically kind of transported to a room. I have been having these since I was a teenager. There's a holographic type screen that I just walk up to it, and it will basically show me everything that is going to happen. And being a psychic, I really never had any, there weren't really any kind of website. We didn't have the internet or anything like that, so that you didn't really know about psychic ability. So I didn't know when I started having these, I figured it was something to do with my psychic abilities. But as time has gone on, I ended up having some very strange things happen. I went through a regression for like a 2-hour session and found out quite a bit. And I've been having UFO sightings since I was a young child, and they have continued all the way up through my adult life. Now, if anybody asked me, did I feel like I'd ever been contacted, abducted, anything like that, I would 100% say no, because I did not have any kind of memories of anything like that. But now, in hindsight, after having the regression and having all these things change, I did, and my family history, I did find out that there was a connection to the sightings and a lot of the things that were happening in my precog dreams, as these dreams where I thought maybe my guides or whoever was giving me this information, come to find out the location that I was given this information was actually on a alien craft, and that I had been there actually many times. So very familiar with it. So maybe, that's what had really fueled my interest in the whole UFO aspect and abductees. I've always felt that these genres of UFOs, Bigfoot, Mothman, Loch Ness Monster, paranormal activity, all these things were much more connected than anybody was realizing. Everybody, had their own little genre of what used to be all the paranormal. Now, ufology is separate from cryptozoology, and both of them are separate from the paranormal. So it's very fragmented and separated. But if you start to do research and you start looking at the data and the research in all of the categories and all the different genres, you will notice that there are a lot of similarities of reportings of witnesses in a lot of these different fields. A lot of times you'll see people who have a lot of paranormal activity, and they've also had UFO sightings. Some people are abductees, and then they come back and they start having a lot of paranormal activities, stuff going on. People like me, I've had a Bigfoot sighting. I used to go to Lake Shasta and go camping every year. And there's 2 years over the last 20 years, 2 times over the last 20 years that I've gone up there where I had sightings of what I feel very certain was a Bigfoot both times. But because I didn't get any, video or camera proof, and I couldn't visually see clear enough to say without a doubt that that's what was going on, I have continued to go up there to try to find that. So, there's a lot more connected between everything, and I think that's what kind of pushes me to do all the work and the research that I do.
Oh, that's really cool, and especially the heading up to Mount Shasta. You talk to your spirit guides?
I do not.
Yeah, I mean,
I never, when people would say, oh, well, who are your spirit guides? I'm like, I don't know. Again, since I can visually see spirits and get the information from them to me, maybe that's why I don't have any spirit guides to make me, I don't know. People always say you gotta have spirit guides, but I never had them, so.
Yeah, you do. You just have them like me. I can look at somebody and I can see a relative standing beside them.
Right.
And the information, what I get is that relative has volunteered to be there as the in-between of the spirit guides and the person. So the spirit guide, because they're very high vibration, they really have to reach down to contact the person, or their vibration has to go up really high. So it's easier because they're of that vibration, the dead person and the spirit guide. Yes. The dead person who has passed, crossed over and come back and that's very important. They're a higher vibration, and they know the quote unquote rules from the other side that, you're not supposed to say what color Jesus's pants were or whatever. There's all these secret things, you're still having to hold the cards a little closer to the chest, but that person seems to be the gut feeling, the hairs in the back of the neck, the goosebumps. They're the ones in charge of that, because the guides just flows through them to the human, or to the, I shouldn't say human, the living. So that we don't need to see the guides, where other psychics talk directly to the guides. And
yeah, that makes sense. It's just funny because I never knew how to respond when people would say, well, like, who are your spirit guides, or how do you connect with your spirit guides? I'm like, I don't know, I don't connect with them. And they say, well, you need to meditate. Well, I meditate every single day. So there's not enough meditation in the world that if they were going to connect with me, they should have by now. And I seem to do just fine without their guidance, I guess. So
and I think that's really important, that you do fine without their guidance. If like the connection that you have with the other side is completely wide open, so given that, you don't have to deal with the spirit guides. Therefore, they're not really intent on coming down and saying, "Hi, how are you? I'm actually the one pulling the strings for your grandmother, whoever's grandfather, who's ever over your shoulder." Christine, one of the things I wanted to run by you, because I've been doing this for a while, is you're familiar with Patreon?
Yes.
Okay, so I have this Patreon account, and what I'm trying to do is get some people to sign up for $3 a month, or $36 a year or something. And from that, every month I will draw a name for one psychic reading, one past life regression, one numerology. And then when we get up over 2,222, I'll be drawing a name either once or twice a month for a trip for two, airfare, accommodations, and car rental. If you want to go see a ghost conference, or want to go see a Bigfoot conference, or want to actually go to Tombstone, Arizona, and go out on a paranormal investigation with some of the teams there, or go to a haunted location wherever in the country. I'll flag a couple of people there, and I will come with you, and I'll turn it into a podcast interview, a couple of interviews, and we'll see how you like it. And if we max out at the 4,000, it was like maybe 3,000. It was 4,500 was a cap, and I may cap it at 3,000. If we get to that number, then the trips are going to be international, like over to Scotland and England and Australia, and poking around in some of the most haunted places there with the local paranormal teams. Do you think that's going to be fun? Oh,
absolutely. I'm doing something kind of similar on my show, so I think that's actually, a great idea. It allows your listeners not only to engage and listen to the shows, but to really get an opportunity to do what we do. I love to be able to bring people and do investigation with them. They get to co-host the show with me for, the day. They're basically just, a VIP, and they get the VIP experience.
It's like going,
and
it's like going to work with your parents' day.
Yeah.
No, it's not that bad. But I think it's a good idea, because and we're designing it around, even if you're shut in a wheelchair, that take somebody with you and to help, and we'll make sure it happens. So it's perfect. It's perfect to get people out and involved, especially if they've always, on their bucket list, they wanted to go to Gettysburg, or wanted to go to a castle in the UK and go with one of the well-known teams over there. And we'll zip them over, maybe bring a psychic with us from that location, and see how it goes.
The haunted Napa Valley.
Come down and see the Napa Valley. Where did I go? I was on the way. Was it on the way to the Napa Valley or out? I was after. I can't remember. It was there was a prison there, Folsom.
Folsom Prison.
Folsom, California.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lovely little haunted town too.
Also, Ione, where Preston Castle is at, the old boys reformatory school.
Right, Preston Castle.
Yep, I'll be doing that in, I believe, in June for their Paracon. I'm their resident radio show host out there. So, and I was a Dawson out there for many years as well.
And
great place.
Where is that place?
Ione, California.
How do you spell it? I-O-N?
I-O-N-E.
I-O-N-E, California. And when's the conference there?
I believe I can give you the dates here in just 1 second. It's like maybe 30 minutes outside of Sacramento, and it's right near Folsom Prison, in fact.
Oh, okay.
Like literally, it's up on the hill.
Folsom Prison, Folsom, the town of Folsom, not connected really to the prison, I guess.
No.
Yeah, it's just a different area. But that town was, just one of those old little wagon train stops that still pretty active.
Yeah.
Because the main street's got a lot of pubs on it and taverns.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. So Preston Castle Paracon is June 14th and 15th. That's Friday and Saturday. And Friday's the meet and greet. Saturday is all of the speakers, the vendors. And then at the end of the night, they have like 3 different times where you can book to investigate afterwards. And if you have never gone to this place, Google it, check it out. I mean, the history of this place is crazy. It is one of the probably more active locations that I've been at, for a while. And it's a very, very cool spot.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm going to go. I've seen the guys and their booth at some of the ghost conferences on the Pacific Northwest here, and I've always told them, I got to come down. We'll do something. And so, yeah, mid-June, June 14th and 15th sounds like a good time down in Ione, California. Preston Castle.
When I come out, you can come and be guest host for me on the show. We can
do that. I will. I wonder if I'm going to get a hold and see if there's any room for another booth and come down and throw a booth down there.
Yeah, I'm sure we could get something going. Like I get a booth, a table anyway for doing the show. So I'm sure we could look.
You're such a show off. Way to go, Christina. She's going to be the show off. I mean, the host. The Preston Castle.
I love to work with others and promote what they're doing as well. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I'm going to the McMinnville UFO conference in a few weeks in May, and I'm staying in one of the McMiniman, it would be a hotel now. The McMiniman family out of Oregon, they've very wealthy family, and they've bought a number of the old beater hotels and have fixed them all up and pulled asbestos out of them the best they can, and they've turned them into nice little boutique hotels. And I'm staying, I think, in a boys' reformatory from the turn of the century that's supposed to be just crazy haunted. So I'm looking forward to that.
I've actually been there. I didn't really know that it was the UFO capital until I got there, but I went there to do a paranormal investigation of a location out there, and it had never been investigated before. And again, another darn basement situation, but there was something dark down there, and we did a live ghost box session down in the basement and checked off whatever was there, because I kind of realized it was lying and trying to hoax us into believing he was a child when he definitely wasn't. And so when we were all leaving, everybody was like single file. We had about 30 people down there, so about half of the people went up, and then it was my turn to go up. I went up like 2 or 3 stairs, and this black shadow figure came flying down the stairwell and literally grabbed me by my chest lifted me up 3 feet off of the ground and threw me 3 feet across the floor in front of 15 people, and it knocked me out.
And they left you there thinking you'd be okay because you were psychic. No,
No,
I'm
they
kidding.
were actually
I'm kidding.
yeah, no, they were actually scared to death. They didn't know what that. And I went back to the hotel, and I went to go and take a bath in some Epsom salt. And when I got undressed, I looked in the mirror, and I still have the picture to this day. I had two big, like, man handprints on my chest.
And
And I didn't know that I had been grabbed and levitated and thrown across the room. I thought that the spirit came down and tried to, like, go either in me or went through me, because I've had that in a situation in the past where a ghost has gone through me and it's caused me to pass out. So that's what I thought happened. It scared them so bad that they did not want to tell me what they just saw. So they waited, and I, like, was really severely affected for a while. Drove back 15 hours on Sunday. Monday night was the show, and we were doing a review about what had happened. And I'm over telling the whole story. And all of a sudden, like, they interrupt me and they say, well, want to just stop you there. Although you're telling the story correctly, the end, you're not really telling it right. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, you're trying to make people think that I'm lying live on air? And they said, well, you didn't just get hit in the chest and pass out. You literally got levitated and thrown across the floor right in front of all of us. And then that's when all these people who were there, like, started backing up the story. And it was crazy. So, yeah, so that was my experience of McMinnville.
oh, great. That's where I'm going to be staying. And if I really don't believe you about the hand mark, so if you post a picture of your chest on your website, Paranormal Connections Radio Show. I'm kidding. Do you ever get a like marked at night when you're sleeping and get up and have if somebody looks like they grabbed your arm or?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, all the time, yeah. I also have a very weird rash, scarring, whatever. I also have to send you a picture. I'm going to put it up on the website as well. But after one of my precog dreams, I woke up, and the next day I'm walking up the stairs, and my daughter's walking behind me, and she's like, oh my God, Mom, what happened to your back? And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, it's bruised. And I'm like, what? So I go up and I look in the mirror, and my whole back, from the back of where my bra would lay all the way down to my waist, was black and blue.
I like even though we are just on, there's no video here, you actually were pointing where your bra was. Like, I could,
exactly.
I could feel that through that.
Yeah, because I'm Italian and I talk with my hands.
And was that connected to your prophetic or your precog dream? Do you think?
I do think that it is. It's very weird, because after I had the bruise, it was like black and blue, and then it turned to this weird, the green color, and then this brown color, but it never went away. And then I started getting these strange blisters. They looked like water blisters, and then they would, break, and they would ooze and bleed. It was crazy. I thought I had some alien infection.
Yeah.
And I went to all these specialists and dermatologists, and they thought I had shingles, but it wasn't. And now come to find out, it looks like it is actual scarring. It literally is. I still have it. I'm gonna send you a picture. I can never wear a shirt that's backless. It's that bad.
So there was a bit of a glitch in the sound, but you say it's turning into scarring?
Yes.
Wow.
I cannot wear a shirt like that, a backless shirt. It's that bad.
Wow.
So.
That's crazy. Well, see, when you talk about the blisters, that's, two ways to get those, or it's friction contact, and you get the water buildup, or the blisters in your shoes, or it's a burn.
Yeah.
And then the body's just sending repairing fluid up to the location.
Right. And they said that after it happened, that it actually originally looked like a radiation burn.
Oh, wow. Now,
I'll send you a picture. And still, like, it, even when it's healed, it looks horrible. But then intermittently, it will act up and I'll get the blisters all over again.
well, here's something you could do because here's where my brain is going on that, Christina, is that you have a number of these prophetic, these futuristic dreams where we see into the future. The do you think possibly? I'm just throw this out. Do you think those are being downloaded to you, but you're having an ET experience?
Yes, 100%.
Okay, so it's not like you're just dreaming and then some spirit comes in and does this. It's connected with you leaving the premise and then coming back in.
100%.
Okay, cool. And if anybody out there, and if my listener is curious on how you can actually figure that out, if you're having a similar thing, somebody called in. It was Dave Scott on his radio show a couple of years ago, and he said get a couple of poker chips and put them on your bedside table, and put out the intent. You can just think it that heck, if I am going to get picked up in the middle of the night here, could you make sure that I stack the chips on top of each other before you put me into bed? I go to sleep. And these guys would have the dreams, or women would have the dream, wake up in the morning and think, oh my God, did I have a ET experience? Did I get beamed up to someplace? And they look over, and sure enough, the coins are stacked, or the chips are stacked, or the business cards are stacked, or whatever. And because they don't mind letting us know that that's what's going on, because they know it's going to keep us a little more sane. But to a point. So you can try like that. But Christine, I think you're sensitive enough to know how that works. Yeah, that sounds like definitely something, radiation or a light or something that's over and above what we have. Now, the other thing too is you had every so often you do have some medical issues every so often. Can you tell me if that event was close to any of your kidney stones or gallstones or whatever you had, or something that was a medical event you had? Was it within a couple of weeks either way?
Well, I mean, so a lot of things have happened. I've had medical issues my whole life, and they were thinking that I was crazy because I couldn't find anything that was going on. And the medical issues started about the time as a teenager that I started having these precog dreams. Eventually, like 17 years ago, I had a car accident that I was involved in. They had to open me up because I had ruptured my spleen, so they went in to go and repair it. And when they opened me up, basically all of my inside organs were pretty much cocooned with scar tissue. So they removed all of it, is in surgery for a very long time, repaired my spleen. Come to find out, they sent the tissue because it wasn't normal for a biopsy. And now, mind you, this accident I had is when I had my near-death experience. So when I wake up from the near-death experience, I'm told it's not my time. I'm then later told by the doctors that they found that not only do I have a very rare illness, but it's an illness with no cure. And that it was basically going to kill me within 3 to 5 years, that I needed to prepare and get ready. Well, here I am 18 years later. The research now says that, most people with this version of my illness don't live past 10 years. But again, there's nothing normal about me. So I'm kind of like this walking miracle, which only makes me believe more so that we absolutely do not go before it's our time.
Yeah.
So I really stopped focusing on that. But I think that it's all connected.
Yeah.
And now looking back at hindsight over different things that have happened and things that I realized was now unlocked with the regression, it was much clearer and being able to look back and say, oh, okay, it's so interesting the excuses or reasoning that we will concoct in order to not want to feel crazy or, not want to think that, what in the world's going on. It's just so much easier to say, oh, this was probably what was going on. Oh, I just had a stomach ache. There's nothing going on here. Oh, it's just a coincidence that this happened like this. But, now uncovering the information that I did, along with my family history, as well as all of my paranormal things that have happened, it's much clearer for sure.
Yeah, because I think you've got every time either you come down with some breakdown in your body. This is one of the two scenarios that I've come up with. You're beamed up and they fix it. Or the alternate scenario, ever since you were born and you were this glowing high vibration, you've been taken away and they poking and prodding at you, which causes all these illnesses. So it's one of the two.
Yeah, I've definitely been used for research. I definitely have been impregnated and then have the pregnancies removed. So yeah, they've had a lot to do with me since birth. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, a friend of mine, Samantha Mowat, has the same thing, and she has been lucky enough to, ETs have taken her. They actually will go introduce her to her children.
Yes, when I did the regression, I was shown as well. That's like a whole nother story, a whole nother show all to itself, that experience. But that was how I knew how to get in and out of that room. Although I didn't have any recollection of ever leaving that room, just going to that room for the precog information, and then I would end up back in bed. Well, a lot of it was, blocked from me for a long period of time because it wasn't information that I could have handled at that time. I'm in a much different mind space and much more educated on everything, so I was able to handle the information a lot better at that point in time. But it's definitely interesting, and I've had interaction probably since birth.
We've been talking to Christina George. She is a psychic medium and is a complete asset. You're a complete asset, you know that? On paranormal teams. What's the name of your paranormal team?
PPRS. It's Psychic and Paranormal Research Society out of Sacramento, California.
Sacramento, California, and it is the PP what? Say it again.
PPRS, Psychic and Paranormal Research Society.
And you can follow them on Facebook too.
Yep.
And I think you may have a link to them on your Paranormal Connections radio.
The website has the links to all of those as well.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you. I hear Mounties singing in the distance, so I'm pretty sure it's my time to go. And obviously your time, because you're going to need some rest. And I want to keep track of these precog dreams. If you actually get one where it's an earthquake's going to happen or something, give me a call.
I'm actually doing a show on Wednesday of all updating everybody on the precogs of what I've already talked about on the shows that have already transpired over the last 3 months last 4 months since I did the show at the end of the year of what was coming. So I'm going to be updating on the things that have actually happened. What I'm showing is still to come. And when we talk about earthquakes, some are on their way.
Thank you, dear. Now that's coming up your next show, Monday?
Wednesday night.
Oh, Wednesday night.
Top Secret News.
Top Secret News. I forgot about that one. So you have Top Secret News.
Yes.
And that's Wednesday nights. Is that, what time is that?
p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. on Eastern Standard Time.
Excellent. Top Secret News. And we're going to listen to that this Wednesday, tomorrow night. And we are going to listen to her, all the precogs that have come true since she's been getting these. Thanks very much, Christina.
Thank you.
Let's roll. And hey. Let's be careful out there.